All right, it's official. No more Unk vibes at the worldwide leader in sports. ESPN has cut ties with former NFL tight end turned media personality Shannon Sharpe after
Shannon Sharpe just got fired from ESPN after settling a $50 million lawsuit. But this story runs much deeper than it appears. He admitted he had avoided dating white women out of fear they might land him in a scandal like Jonathan Majors. Not because he disliked them, but because he was cautious. You could be Kang the Conqueror, and they could take your rabbit down in 2 weekends, he said. Katt Williams had sat on Shannon's own couch and warned him exactly what would happen if he kept chasing young white women. But Shannon laughed it off, assuming Katt was being dramatic. In reality, Katt was being prophetic. Now, Shannon will not be returning to ESPN, going from the top of the media world to unemployed and broke in less than 2 years, all because he ignored people trying to save him. Even Monique tried to intervene, telling him, "You don't need number 26-year-old girl. You don't need number 36-year-old girl. This is your auntie talking to you." Shannon's downfall is especially tragic because it was completely preventable. Multiple people saw the danger and warned him, but he was too arrogant to listen. During his historic Club Shay Shay interview in January 2024, Katt wasn't just exposing comedians. He was dropping survival knowledge about Hollywood, explaining how the industry tests you, tries to compromise you, and forces you to say no to protect yourself. He specifically pointed to the Jonathan Majors situation. Majors had been at the top of his career with Marvel contracts and major film roles, but a domestic violence case involving a white woman destroyed it all overnight. Katt saw the same pattern forming for Shannon and tried to steer him away. Shannon even acknowledged that Katt was showing him a side of the business he hadn't known, admitting he was learning about the traps and pitfalls that ruin careers. Yet when it came to the specific warning about white women, Shannon dismissed it as entertainment instead of heeding it as a serious caution. He didn't understand that Katt wasn't speaking from paranoia. He was speaking from pattern recognition and genuine concern. The lawsuit that would ultimately destroy Shannon's ESPN career matched Katt's warning perfectly. A much younger white woman, a relationship gone bad, allegations that wrecked his reputation, and a career that couldn't survive a controversy. Katt had seen this exact story play out with other successful black men, and tried to save Shannon from becoming the next victim. But Katt Williams wasn't the only one trying to protect him. Just 1 month after that January 2024 interview, another voice of wisdom sat on the same Club Shay Shay couch, Monique. If Katt's warning was subtle and philosophical, Monique's was blunt and unmistakable. She looked Shannon in the eye and told him, "You don't need number 26-year-old girl. You don't need number 36-year-old girl. This is your auntie talking to you." Monique understood something Shannon refused to acknowledge, the mismatch between what he was chasing and what would actually bring him happiness and security. She wasn't joking when she told him to find an older woman who could bake cakes and rub his feet. She was giving him a blueprint for stability and genuine love. But her warning went beyond romance. She knew the dangers of large age gap relationships, especially for high-profile men. Using humor, she painted the picture. When a younger partner wants to go another round, you're exhausted, and the energy gap breeds frustration, which then leads to conflict and eventually toxic situations that spiral into lawsuits. The most prophetic part of her advice was that she recognized Shannon's pursuit wasn't about love. It was about ego and validation. She saw he was chasing young women to feel young himself, but she knew that road led to destruction. She told him, "These young girls will bite you. Come on home." Shannon, speaking with genuine tough love, like family who sees you heading for disaster. Now, watching Shannon's career implode exactly as she predicted, her words sound like prophecy. Instead of following her advice to find an older, caring partner, Shannon got involved with someone young enough to be his granddaughter. The $50 million lawsuit filed in April 2025 proved both comedians right. The allegations detailed a toxic relationship that began when his accuser was just 20 and he was 56, a generational divide with built-in power imbalances and communication issues. The lawsuit described a pattern of control and intimidation from Shannon, dynamics Monique had warned about explicitly. According to his attorney, Shannon initially tried to pay millions to keep the case private, but when that failed, every intimate detail spilled out, exactly the kind of rapid downfall Katt had meant when he warned about situations that could take your rabbit down in 2 weekends. The most damaging aspect wasn't just the allegations themselves. It was how they confirmed the exact pattern Katt Williams and Monique had identified. Shannon was pursuing relationships that put him at serious risk, ignoring the advice of people who genuinely cared about his well-being, and now he was paying the ultimate price for those choices. When he finally acknowledged that his ESPN career was over, the devastation in his voice was clear. This wasn't just a job loss. It was a destruction of everything he had built in media, all because he couldn't listen to the people who had tried to save him from this exact scenario. The settlement that followed reportedly cost him tens of millions of dollars, but the professional damage was irreversible. ESPN couldn't afford to be associated with someone accused of sexual assault, regardless of the legal outcome. Katt and Monique had both foreseen this result, understanding that Shannon's relationship choices weren't just personal matters but career-threatening risks. One of the most telling aspects of the legal battle was Shannon's refusal to view the video evidence his accuser's attorney claimed to have. This wasn't just a legal tactic. It revealed something deeper about how he approached his own situation. His refusal raised serious questions about his confidence in his version of events. Most innocent people would want to see the evidence against them, but Shannon appeared to prefer what legal experts call plausible deniability. The video became central to settlement negotiations, with Shannon's team acknowledging its existence while challenging the accuser's attorney to release the full footage rather than edited clips. Shannon publicly claimed, "Busby targets black men. I believe is going to release a 30-second clip to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype. That video should be 10 minutes or so. Hey, Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out." This statement suggested Shannon knew exactly what was on the recording and felt confident enough to demand its release, but his legal team's reluctance to let him view it hinted they believed the footage might not fully support his public narrative. That contradiction, public bravado paired with private avoidance, became a major factor in how the case was perceived. It implied that even his own attorneys knew the evidence could be more damaging than he admitted. This same pattern of avoidance and denial mirrored how Shannon had handled the earlier warning from Katt Williams and Monique. Just as he had refused to seriously consider their advice about his relationships, he now refused to directly confront evidence that could force him to face the consequences of those choices. The man who had once laughed off their prophetic warnings was now living the exact nightmare they predicted, and it was far from over. The worst was still to come. By July 2025, it was clear that Shannon Sharpe was ready to make the nightmare go away at any cost. On July 18th, Tony Busby announced that the lawsuit had been settled for an undisclosed amount, with all parties agreeing the matter was closed. "All matters have now been addressed satisfactorily, and the matter is closed," Busby said. The case was dismissed with prejudice, meaning Zuniga couldn't refile the same claims in the same court. While the legal battle was over, the professional fallout was just beginning. Industry insiders speculated the settlement could have been as high as $23 million, though neither side confirmed it. What was clear is that Shannon had paid enough to make Zuniga disappear from public view. She reportedly retired from OnlyFans shortly afterward. But Shannon's relief was short-lived. ESPN had been watching closely, and executives decided bringing him back was too risky, no matter the legal outcome. Just 2 weeks after the settlement, on July 31st, 2025, ESPN officially cut ties with Shannon. Shannon later confirmed, "I will not be returning to ESPN. I found out this information a little earlier in the week." The timing made the blow even more painful. His brother, Sterling Sharpe, was about to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and Shannon had asked ESPN to delay the announcement until after the ceremony. ESPN refused, overshadowing Sterling's moment with news of Shannon's firing. From a business perspective, the decision made sense. ESPN is owned by Disney, a company with zero tolerance for scandal. Even if Shannon had been innocent, the fact that he'd been accused of sexual assault and settled for millions made him untouchable for a family-friendly network. Shannon's fall from grace was complete. In January 2024, he was at the peak of his media career, hosting one of the most popular sports podcasts and appearing regularly on ESPN's flagship morning show. By August 2025, he was unemployed, tens of millions poorer, and facing an uncertain future in media. The tragedy was how preventable it all had been. Multiple people had warned him about this exact scenario, but he ignored them, continuing to pursue relationships that put him at risk. The saga also peeled back the polished television persona to reveal something more troubling. On camera, Shannon appeared confident, successful, and in control. But behind the scenes, his dismissive attitude toward legitimate warnings, like Katt Williams' prophetic interview, now seemed incredibly arrogant. When someone with Katt's insight tells you you're playing with fire, the smart move is to listen, not laugh. Fans watching Shannon's downfall in real time were divided between shock and grim inevitability. Many said they saw this coming, that paying off his accuser didn't fix a problem, but only save him from further humiliation. Others pointed out that he had brought this on himself by chasing much younger women despite repeated warnings, playing stupid games and winning stupid prizes. Perhaps the most common reaction was people recalling how Monique had literally predicted this outcome, telling him on his own show to stop chasing young women and find someone age-appropriate who could actually care for him. What the entire episode revealed was that Shannon was never as smart or self-aware as he appeared on television. Despite having access to wise counsel from people like Katt Williams and Monique, he convinced himself he was special, immune to the consequences that had destroyed other men. The Instagram Live incident should have been Shannon's wake-up call, but instead of viewing it as a serious warning, he brushed it off as a minor embarrassment. This reflected a larger pattern of denial and poor judgment that went far beyond his dating choices. As details from the lawsuit emerged, reactions grew more specific about what the case revealed regarding Shannon's personal preferences and behavior. The legal proceedings painted a stark contrast between his public persona and his private life, showing a man with an apparent preference for situations that put him in danger. The most damaging revelation was that Shannon seemed willing to risk everything, his career, his reputation, and his financial security, for relationships that multiple people had warned him were dangerous. This suggested either shockingly poor judgment or a deeper compulsion he couldn't control. The financial side of Shannon's downfall was particularly painful to watch. People pointed out that he had effectively transferred generational wealth to someone who was barely out of her teens when their relationship began, a person who had contributed nothing to building it. What made it worse was that Shannon had been financially successful for decades, with NFL money, media money, and podcast money at his disposal. Yet, instead of safeguarding that wealth for his future, he gave much of it away to settle a lawsuit that could have been avoided entirely if he had simply listened to the people trying to help him. The tragedy of Shannon Sharpe is that he had it all: success, money, respect, and a platform, and he threw it away for relationships everyone around him could see would destroy him. He had people in his corner, genuinely invested in saving him from himself, but he was either too arrogant or too addicted to dangerous situations to take their advice. Now, Shannon is unemployed, financially devastated, and staring down an uncertain future, all because he refused to listen to those who cared enough to warn him where his choices would lead.